Hi, I'm Rob Johnston, Director of Legal Services with the Alabama League of Municipalities. I am joined with Alabama Secretary of State, Wes Allen. We thank you for being with us today. Today we're going to discuss the upcoming municipal elections and how to best use the Secretary of State's office to help you in preparing for these elections. So let's begin. Secretary Allen, recently the legislature passed a law exempting municipal candidates from the Fair Campaign Practices Act in some instances. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure, proud to. Thanks for having me on.
Sure.
Appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you so much.
And I'll kind of start with the genesis about how it all started. If you remember, I know a lot of your people will remember, back in 2021 there was a bill passed to put all electronic filing of FCA PA reports under the Secretary's office. Before, they used to file that under the probate offices in their particular counties.
Yeah.
And so the legislature, which I was a part of, we passed that bill at the time. And then, of course, I won the Secretary's office, and we got to looking at what type of impact it was going to have on the Secretary's office to upload and to onboard, 4 to 5, 6,000, whatever the case may be, municipal candidates statewide,
Right.
to our backbone of our FCPA site, the server, software, hardware, that type thing. So we knew it was going to be a lot, and we wanted to prepare for that, but said, how can we make it easier on anyone that wants to get involved at the municipal level to work and to campaign and to make sure that they are active in their community and not providing some level of bureaucratic red tape that they had to go jump through. So we got to looking at potential pieces of legislation. We said, you know what, let's go get a bill drafted and passed that says if once they pass that $1,000 threshold, spending or contributions, that they do not have to develop or go and file their PCC forms or do anything. But when they pass that $1,000 threshold, expenditures or contributions, then they've got to start filing with the Alabama Secretary of State's office. And we're very proud of the legislature for doing that. And there are a lot of municipalities out there, a lot of people that run for office that won't have anybody running against them, so there's no need to raise money or spend money.
Right.
So why do we need to add a level of red tape to them? And so we're very proud of this piece of legislation.
Okay. And you mentioned red tape and the title Fair Campaign Practices Act. That's a big legal
It's a mouthful.
in simple terms,
Yeah.
what is the Fair Campaign Practices Act?
It's basically a way to ensure transparency and accountability to our elections process in the state of Alabama as it pertains to candidates and PACs.
Yeah.
And it's just a way to keep track of who's giving and what they're spending money on in their campaign and to keep a level of transparency that the public expects.
Just showing the money.
Right.
Okay, so that everybody can see that.
Yep.
And you had mentioned that before, before municipalities, they had to file with the probate judge, but with that change, they don't file with the probate judge anymore. They file with the Secretary of State. How would they file with the Secretary of State's office?
So they're going to file electronically,
Okay.
and if they got any questions at all, they can call the Elections Division at 334-242-7210, and call us. We've got a great staff. Jeff Elrod, Candace Payne, those guys in that Elections Division that work in our office do a fabulous job. They've got a great team. They can answer any questions. So if anybody runs into any stumps in the road, they can call, but the forms will not be available at the probate offices. Go to alabamavotes.gov.
Okay.
alabamavotes.gov. Log on there, get on the internet website, and the forms should be there. But if they can't find what they need, please call us. And we want to be a resource to anybody that wants to get involved here for the August 26th municipal elections.
Okay. Sounds great. If any candidate has any questions regarding the Fair Campaign Practices about the money, any questions about anything,
Sure.
can they give you all a call?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, we're open, 8 to 5 weekdays, Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
And of course, if anybody needs us, please give us a ring. Shoot us an email. All the contact info is there on our elections page at alabamavotes.gov. They can always shoot an email after hours. It'll be waiting on the staff, and even staff sometimes checks after hours.
Yeah.
So don't hesitate to reach out to us.
Okay, that's fantastic. That's fantastic.
Yep.
And so that $1,000 threshold,
Yep.
until you raise $1,000 or spend $1,000, you don't have to file.
You don't have to file, don't have to create the PCC or,
Right.
file any of that paperwork until that threshold is reached.
Okay. And so sometimes what we tell candidates, even though that $1,000 threshold is there, and in order to know and account for that, it's still good to have a bank account for that campaign committee, that PCC that
Sure.
you're talking about.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts about that generally? I mean,
Yeah, go create.
Go create the account, yeah.
A campaign
Yeah.
checking account. Do not
Yeah.
intermingle this with a personal checking account.
Yeah.
That's a no-no. So
Yeah.
make sure that when someone decides to run for municipal office and they get everything set up, go to your local financial institution, to your local bank,
Yeah.
and get a campaign checking account to keep everything separate to what comes into the campaign, and do that.
yeah, separate sounds like the key
Yeah.
from what I'm hearing from
Yeah.
you. So if me, Rob Johnston, the individual, you're telling me that under campaign finance laws, even though Rob Johnston, the individual, is one person, Rob Johnston, the candidate, is a different person
different
for the
person.
purposes of
Sure.
Good.
Yeah.
Good to know that. And so Rob Johnston, the candidate, needs to have a banking account.
Yep.
Good. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about some other forms. Only the Fair Campaign Practices Act are filed with the Secretary of State's office. Municipal candidates have really two other forms they need to file. One is, and this is just for the purposes here, one is for the statement of candidacy form. You'd file that with the clerk. And then there's another form, statement of economic interest.
Big
That's
one.
with a different, big one.
It's a big one.
But with a different state agency.
Yeah.
That would be filed with the Ethics Commission, but
Yep.
not with you.
Not with us.
Okay.
But that's a big one.
Yes.
That's a big one.
Big one. That's how you get ballot access. Good. Okay, let me shift gears on that. Voters lists.
Yeah.
Municipal candidates, they could provide voters lists if a candidate wanted them. Do you all provide voters lists?
Sure do.
Okay.
So they can call
Yeah.
the number at 334-242-7200 to our elections division and request a voters list for their particular district, city council district, or the whole citywide district as well, city limits. So if they want to do that, they can call, or they can get online. There's an online portal that they can request that, but there is a 1 cent per voter cost for that particular list.
Sure, absolutely.
And we're very responsive. The team is very responsive in getting those turned around.
So good turnaround time.
Yes.
And you can provide those electronically as well?
Absolutely.
That's
So when
good.
they're requested and we process that and get the payment,
Yeah.
we can get that back to them quickly electronically.
Some great options there.
Yep.
Great. Okay. Ballot security, election security.
Sure.
We hear those on a national level.
Sure.
What can you tell us about election security here in the state of Alabama?
Well, it's one thing that's a top priority for our office. As the chief elections official, a former probate judge, I take it serious when I campaign for this role. That's one thing that I heard over and over again was election integrity. It is a top priority. It is one thing we have worked extremely close with our probate judges, our circuit clerks, our sheriffs, our boards of registrars, poll workers, city clerks coming up for the municipal elections. And it's something we take very serious. We have done lots of pieces of legislation over the last 3 sessions since I've been in office. Number one is making sure we'll always have paper ballots. We'll always use paper ballots per state law in the state of Alabama. Number two, the tabulators that the citizens will be voting and using this August for municipal elections are not and cannot be connected to the internet. I'm the only secretary from the state of Alabama that has ever traveled to our vendor that handles our tabulators statewide, ES&S in Omaha, Nebraska, and laid my eyes on them, met with the top level CFO, CEO of that company to reiterate how important it is for the public to have confidence in our elections and those tabulators that we use. So we've got paper ballots, we've got a paper trail, we got the receipts. If something were to happen, we can go back and check. Number two, the tabulators, again, are not connected to the internet. I don't think they're going to put themselves in a civil liability or criminal liability situation to hide some modem or something that can beam whatever, be connected on that tabulator, you know. And then also making sure we protect the absentee voting process. Absentee voting is important. There are a lot of people that use it. And one thing that we recognized early on, that normally when you see election fraud, it's in the orbit of absentee voting. So we want to protect those that utilize it, protect those that are vulnerable that utilize it. But at the same time, we want to make sure that no paid political activists out there can be benefiting and manipulating the absentee voting process and interfering with the elections in a city election or a county election or a state election with the absentee process. So we got SB 1 passed a couple of years ago. It withstood federal scrutiny in federal court, and we're very proud of that piece of legislation. And I just hope everybody understands that we've got to protect absentee, but at the same time, we want to make sure it's fair. We want to make sure that those paid political activists are not benefiting and manipulating this process.
Okay, and you mentioned something in that when you're talking about absentees, and you mentioned some sort of fraud. In the event that there is some concern that someone sees something about possible elections violations in some way, shape, or form, who can they reach out to for that?
Sure, and let me just say before I answer that question, we got a felony conviction in Clay County dealing with absentee voter fraud just several weeks ago. There are several more indictments, or one indictment in Mobile that's going to trial with absentee election fraud in Mobile County. So we've seen that it does go on, and we do pay attention. But if anybody has any concern about the elections process in their particular city or community, we've got a complaint portal where we can intake complaints from the public. You've got to, list out your complaint, send it to us. Just go to alabamavotes.gov. It's right there. You can find it to list the complaint, and then we will do some due diligence, and then we will forward that to the appropriate law enforcement agencies to go investigate it. While we don't have the investigative jurisdiction by law, we can take in the complaints and then work with law enforcement to give that to them to do the investigation.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, that is all that I have, and this concludes our talk today. Thank you so much for being with us. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to the Alabama League of Municipalities or to the Secretary of State's office in regards to elections. We'll be happy to help you out in any way that we can. Thank you so much.